What up? Today we are going to make a RPG game. I've always wanted to make RPGs, but they're also one of the most difficult games to make, but now I'm finally ready to try and see how far I could get in 100 days. So let's open up Unity and create a square. Actually, this is a cube, but we don't even need a cube, we need a proper player character. And I really like this one because he has this primeval look and he's also for free. And so we can put him into the engine, and if you look closely, you will see that he is naked. Yeah, so I kind of found that out later. Apparently the free version is naked, but yeah, nice. So let's try and make this guy run around, and I gave him the ability to jump and to sprint, which looks a bit funny if you spam it, but I'm gonna have to fix that later. Now what is important is that this is normal movement, where the face of the player is always rotating towards where he's going. But we also need combat movement, in which the player will look forward but can still go in any other direction. We call this strafe movement, and for that we will need 8 different animations, which we can hook up in the engine, and then our character will have Dark Souls-like movement, which honestly is kind of sick. Just the forward diagonal animation is still a bit scuffed, but that's actually an animation problem and not my code, I swear. And we're gonna fix that by buying a proper animations package. This is actually really worth it because I want our player to use a bow, but doing these animations myself is really a lot of work, and this package also has bow movement animations already in it, so we can just use these animations for our movement. So this is actually a total steal. So you already know, I'm gonna try and put this bow animations pack into the engine, which is okay. It looks a bit weird, but then also after the bow animations, the player is rotated a little bit wrong. So it looks absolutely weird to walk afterwards, but after some time I was able to fix it, and now we have all of the proper movement animations built into the player, and we can even draw the bow, which actually looks really cool, to be honest. I also made it so that the player can now actually shoot a projectile, which looks a little bit like a piece of shit. And if you aim well, you can actually hit this target dummy, which, yeah, is just a block. Next, I wanted to make an enemy. So I took this guy and made him move around, and he can now even hit us, which just doesn't do anything yet. So I don't know if you noticed, but we don't really have a bow yet. So we kind of need a bow. Luckily, a friend of mine is an artist and he made a bow recently, so he kind of just gave it to me. And the cool thing about this bow is that we can do this. Oh yeah. Have you ever seen a bow so amazing before? So by snapping the string to the right hand of the player, we can make it look like he's drawing the bow, and I made the projectile from a brown piece of shit to a white spermium. Why is that? Why is it always so sus? The cool thing is that we can now hit our enemy, and the sound also, it sounds very sus. So this whole thing is basically a compilation of susness. I also made it so that he will explode if he dies, and he will drop an item, which for now is just once again a cube, but we will exchange this for a proper item later. And then, yeah, I kind of found out that I can climb up walls and decided to do a little bit of parkour for no reason at all, to be honest. And jumping while drawing the bow looks absolutely wrong, so I will have to fix that. But first I want to make the arrows actually stick into the wall, which looks really cool and more proper. And as you can see, we finally have actually arrows, and we can even shoot them into the enemy, which works most of the time pretty well. And while we're at it, I also fixed that jump, but it still looks really weird, and that's because the animation is made so that he draws the bow sideways. So it's a bit annoying to fix it, and I'll just leave it because we're gonna cut the jump later anyway. You don't need to know. Fuck it, we just keep on going. I also improved the code from the enemy a lot, so we have this huge mess at the beginning, and I cut it down like this. Don't ask me why I made the enemy in a visual code. I just thought it's easier to look at it, but it's actually not that easy to look at it. At least the code is now prettier. But the enemy doesn't really work now, so he kind of just stands around and does nothing. Yeah, programming, am I right? So it took some time, but I actually fixed it, and now the enemy works like before, exactly the same thing, but just cleaner behind the scene, so yeah, not really much changing. But now the enemy can actually hit the player, which again sounds really sus, but it works now, so we have proper fighting between enemy and player. Isn't that epic? Yeah, it is kind of epic. It is kind of cool. okay, I think it's cool. So I found this dodge roll animation online, and now we can do some sick kiting and rolling away from the enemy. And as long as you're just fighting against one and you're a sick gamer like me, then no problemo at all. But take care if there is more than one enemy. That shit hits hard. That shit is hard. We don't have any dodge roll sound yet, but before we do that, I want to add an ability wheel, because I want to add a lot of abilities later in this game, but I don't want to press 50 different buttons on my keyboard. I just want to open a wheel and then I can select a few different abilities. And it now works that we can select something, it just doesn't do anything yet. So you already know we need to add our first ability, which in my mind is something like a soul arrow or like a mana arrow, which is just a super powerful shot. So for that I experimented around a bit and made this swirly curly thing, but it didn't really fit the image, so I instead went with a magical circular thing and a charge up effect, and then I made the arrow itself blue with a little bit of a trail, so he will have this nice flying thing at the end, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, and I also made this super sick lava cube for no reason at all, but while I was at it, I made it. And yeah, it looks really cool. Oh yeah, and the arrow now has this burning effect on it as well. And when he hits a wall or something, then there will also be a little bit of a pop-up of like an impact thing, which adds a little bit more oomph to the shot. I also made this damage pop-up, so now we actually know how much damage each arrow does, and there is a health bar above the enemy so that we know how much damage he already took and how much he still needs to take before he will die. Also, I made this guy's pants pink, so now he doesn't look as naked. Next, we did what every great programmer does, and that is rewriting all of the archery code and making it actually pretty. Actually, not really any programmer does this, because you don't see much difference. Actually, you don't see any difference, but it's much nicer to work with this for the future, and I like making code clean, basically. Right now we cannot use the ability anymore because I still need to fix that, but yeah, it's cleaner. But with the clean logic, I was now able to make the crosshair dynamic, so it actually shows now when you draw the bow, which looks kind of cool, not gonna lie. And the dodge roll now finally has a sound to it, which makes it much nicer to dodge roll around. And if you're wondering why there is a fire, I have no idea, I just felt like making a fire. I'm probably not gonna use it. Also, I spent another 20 hours making a nice arc for the arrow, so that when you aim straight, the arrow will always go through exactly the point where you aimed at, which once again doesn't look like much difference, but it does make a difference if you aim up or down. Sometimes the arrow would not fully go through where you aimed, so yeah, this was a lot of math and actually crazy code, but it works now, and that's sick. Also, we now need a health bar for our player, because otherwise we cannot really take damage. And believe it or not, it can actually be very complicated to die, because you need to turn off a lot of logic, and I was able to do that finally, and now we can die. Very nice. And for some reason the enemy really disrespects the player still and tries to attack even though you're kind of already dead. So that's actually pretty mean. So as a revenge, I made the enemy also drop now an item, this time a proper one, and you can now pick it up to gain some money. Sweet money! So now you can farm to your heart's content and get all of the money you want. Oh yeah! Next we need a mana bar, and with mana we obviously now need to make it so that you can select abilities, because otherwise that wouldn't make sense to have a mana bar. You just have to really take care, if you don't have enough mana, that you don't select an ability, because if you do, the game will crash. Actually, it will not crash, but you cannot look around anymore. So as you can see, I got kind of stuck and then I got absolutely demolished by the enemy. But that is a feature, not a bug. So deal with it. I also now made it so that the health bar and the mana bar change smoothly, and we have health and mana regen as well, which is very nice because now you can actually use some more abilities. Also, I made this super sick cube which you can go to and buy items. So this is kind of like the local shop. It's like underground and super secret. You are not even wondering why there is a cube standing around. so you can buy some stuff there. Unfortunately, you can just basically spam buy the stuff because the money is not subtracted from your money. So you can buy as much as you want, and then you can buy so much mana regen that you can overcharge your abilities and stack the abilities on top of each other, which I totally didn't think about, so I will have to fix that in my code. But at least you can now deliver a supercharged shot. Oh yeah. I need to think of something else to say. This is such bad ad-libs. And for example, here I do 22 damage to the enemy, and then after buying the attack a few times, I now deal 37 damage to the enemy. So you can absolutely ramp up your damage once I make it so that the money actually gets subtracted, and then you can hit for some really cool damage in the game. Oh yeah, and when you buy something, you will actually shoot an arrow at the shop, because I didn't turn off the shooting while you buy. But that's just another coding thing. Like, you always have to think about so much stuff when you code, it's insane. So yeah, once we put a NPC there, then we will always shoot the NPC by mistake. So kind of need to turn that off, I guess. So now the shop actually reduces the money when you buy it. And I added a pause menu, which works most of the time. Actually, now it does. It just didn't at the beginning. And we now have a sick main menu. What up? So you might have noticed that so far we've only been running around a gray world, and our main menu is super trash, and everything is basically looking kind of bland, aka trash. So let's start with the ground and actually add some grass. I really like grass. Grass is awesome, and I even made it move around a bit. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very alive. Then I added a tree, and not only one tree, but many trees, and this is how the tree looks. Very cool. I also actually made use of the fire, so now we have a cool fire. The target dummy is now actually a target dummy, and you can shoot him, which you will see in a sec. The shop is now a shop. Holy shit! Damn, the shop, bro. Sheesh. And then I added a super cool sky. It's not, I mean, I basically bought it and then I put it in, but it's really cool. And it's a nice sky. And it can also do night and day and good weather and bad weather. And it can even sometimes spawn butterflies for some random reason, which I don't know how to turn off. So we accept it. It's actually pretty cool, but also a bit weird because I didn't want to have butterflies, but now we have sometimes butterflies, which is super cool. Am I right? Yeah, but now we are basically finished. I mean, the game is not fully finished, but we have a whole world that we can run around in. We have some enemies, and it now looks pretty much way better. I improved the sound effects of the ability a bit, and in general there were some extra bugs that I had to fix. But the enemies now spawn around, you can farm them, you can fight them, so you have this first forest area. I also added another ability, which is a teleportation ability, and it's kind of cool. I think we could use this in the future for some, I don't know, for example, you can upgrade the ability and then you could maybe swap places with the enemy. That would be really cool. But I don't know, let's just see what we can actually do with this game. It's just a cool base. It's a cool beginning for an RPG. Also, I made the shop now actually have some icons, which is basically irrelevant. I know, but it's a little nice feature. And to be honest, I learned in this whole project that it's really, really difficult to make an RPG. There's so much code that I had to go through and had to write. There is so much architecture in the code because you need to make abilities work with the movement, with the damage system. You need enemies, and then the abilities need to affect the enemies. For example, later, maybe I want to use an electric arrow and that could stun an enemy. So we also need to connect the abilities to the enemies. So much work. So you really need and should be knowing what you're doing if you want to make your own RPG. Just some wise words that I learned in this experience. I hope this was nice for you to see, and then I see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Oh, and subscribe. Please subscribe. It would be amazing. Peace. Bye bye.